I haven't done any.
That's true.
I mean, I heard that.
Does he all have a speaker? I mean, can he turn the volume?
I was gonna ask them. I don't know if it's that or if it's just Lori, you know, not close enough to her laptop.
There's probably a volume control on there too.
Hey guys, seen that? We have someone on and the sound isn't that loud. Is it loud to you or is there a way to turn this up or? Lori?
I went to the first one, and then I brought it down here in Gina. Well, I think they should just elect people for a council of 30 years or younger. That way you don't have all these.
We're missing two.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good. That's great. That's not bad.
No, I'll just give them a call tomorrow.
Okay.
And we'll just, I'll just say that we're in the process and we won't have to vote to extend the thing.
Yeah, no, it's just a technicality, administrative thing.
I just keep pushing buttons. The answer says. That's probably how that email goes. I don't know. I know it works. They just laid on my desk.
Okay, are we about ready?
6:32.
You ready? Okay. We'll start the work session now. Lori's on the phone via Zoom, and she's going to lead this section of the work session. Lori, take it over.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you've all seen that we're very short on this budget. So I think what I'm going to do is let maybe you all ask me questions. There's a lot of numbers there. One thing I do want to say that I looked at is that in capital projects, the general fund has $106,900, and the street has $420,000. It could be brought over part of that, one, to defer the cost of the roof, and the street could defer the cost of their capital project, or their capital items. So I just wanted to throw that out there and let you know that that is a possibility if you choose to do it. And I'll let you ask me questions.
Lori, can you provide the account numbers with the line items you're talking about? It's a lot easier to pick out when we're looking for the number.
They're not in this one, they're in capital projects. I'm just letting you know that the general fund and the street has money in capital projects that we can bring over to help offset the deficit.
Okay.
The roof is at least $350,000. That was before prices increased, so it could go much higher.
Lori, would you say the capital projects is what's pushing up the deficit? Is that the majority of the cost? Or what would you say is the majority of the costs pushing up the deficit?
I think it's the roof.
Well, just the roof for the borough building is $350,000.
Right,
So that is a lot. I mean, that's a major portion of it. There are some increases you can see between last year and this year in the different funds. If the street has more people for the end of this year and into next year, so they have an increase.
correct.
But they're looking for almost $50,000. Of course, the police has an increase. There's a little bit of an increase overall, and a lot of it is the capital items. It makes it so incredibly high.
So Lori, besides the roof, the $350K, what else are capital projects within the general budget that are of concern?
Can you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
You said that the roof is $350,000 to repair the roof of this building. What other capital projects would appear in the general budget that we need to address with possible moving of funds from a different budget over to here?
So, like I said, the street has almost $50,000. The police has about $8,000. They're the major ones. There's really not much else that's a major capital item.
Okay.
What's the 50,000 is, Lori, what's the $50,000 item or maybe multiple items in the streets department?
So Matt had attached, I had attached what Matt asked for. Let me go back and double check that I get this right. So we had a tar buggy that was 10,800. 2 lift gates that were almost 10,000. There was some money he had asked for something under the liquid fuels that we have funded all but about 10,000 of it came out of here.
I guess, I just to clarify,
Yeah.
do we have monies in the liquid fuels to cover the $50,000 worth of items?
Yes, on that we do. We can pull it out of there. I didn't do that because that's council's decision. And I think we can do the roof in half, if I remember correctly. And there's 169 for the general fund that we could use for some of that. That's going to complete everything that general has in there, but it would help offset that cost.
Yes.
So are you saying for the roof, we do half the roof in 22 and half the roof in 23?
Yeah, part of it's over the portion of the building that you're sitting in, and then part of it is over the police department. They're 2 separate levels. So I think they can do, am I correct, Ralph? I mean,
Yes.
that
Yes, we actually,
they could do portion and portion.
yes.
Is one
I
side,
think that's what my understanding was.
Yeah.
I don't know how fire it is to do all of it. I don't have an answer for that. I just know that it needs a new roof. And if we can pull off half and half, great.
Do you know if would be a 50-50? Because I think that
No.
roof is smaller than this roof.
I could check with our Public Works Department. I'm sure they've measured it. I don't have the measurements in front of me, but definitely the roof could be split into 2 years. As Lori's saying, it's definitely two different sections.
Is one worse than the other?
Yes.
I believe so. We have a roofing company that comes in and inspects them, so we have reports on all of this, but I don't have them.
Yeah, it was done actually, I think, about a year and a half ago, and one of them was in, like, it was, you need it now, and the other one was, you need it tomorrow. So they were both, the roof is in bad shape, and it really needs, we gotta figure out a way somehow that we're gonna be able to do it. So I know at least a year and a half ago, they said you could split it up, and
Which one is the worst one? Do you remember?
no, as Ralph said, we'd have to go back and get the report on
Yeah,
that.
we have it in writing. but-
Actually, Dave Kleinfelder was the one spearheading that, and he's
Yeah.
been out for a while.
Yes, but we do have all the paperwork. And, I know we're gonna continue this Thursday evening, so between now and then, we can look into that paperwork and,
Okay.
have more details about splitting the project. The thing I would throw out at you, we typically don't like to do capital projects out of operating funds. And especially a big, several $100,000 project typically is not paid for out of the operating income. That should be looked at as a financing project or something. Because typically, no operating fund can handle that cost, in 1 year. So I would ask you to consider financing that project, and, the roof's gonna last 20 to 30 years. So typically, that's financed over a portion of that time, and then you still have life left after the finance and the debt's taken care of.
Could you, between now and Thursday, get an idea of how much that might additionally
Yes.
cost us over time?
Yes, and get some information on financing that.
That'll put us on a little better footing.
Yes.
And the other thing to let you know is I did not have a number for the bus service for next year as of last Friday. And she came in and said she had a number, which I can plug in and we can send a new budget out, letting you know how much that is. But I didn't have that as of when I needed to have everything ready.
Hi, Lori, we did get a number today. I didn't study it, but I forwarded you her email, so we can talk about that maybe Thursday evening. Luana did give us some high numbers. She's kind of in the same boat, kind of guessing where their costs are gonna come in. They have the same issues with labor shortages and, COVID they're dealing with and all of that. So, they gave us, what they consider probably, high numbers for us to budget. And, us at least have a number to plug in. So, we can review those and show those numbers to you on Thursday evening. Lori, was out ill today, so we just haven't had a chance to converse on the numbers or anything.
So just to understand, Lori, on the budget, you've got down at 399.001, it says use of reserves, and you've just got a yellow square. Is that because of what we're talking about right now?
Yeah,
Okay,
because we usually fill that in at the end, to decide how much we're gonna use.
okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Question. Lori, I was looking at some of the healthcare expense numbers. And that would be line item, say with streets, it's 430, 196. And you're projecting a rather significant jump from 73,500 nominally this year up to 104,250 next year. Now, I understand that we did bring in some more staffing. We were short a year in staffing in streets. So, you know, I would be anticipating about a 15% jump in rates from what we might have had in 2019. We seem to be a bit higher than that at 104,250. That, I'll note that on streets, but then over on general government and the police, the same, on those same lines for health insurance costs, there's very small change between this year and next year as far as the projected cost.
It goes down.
And I thought we were anticipating a 10% increase in premiums.
Yes, we are. I went through and figured out what we would pay this year and what we would pay next year, and that's what I came out with. We did get 2 extra people in the streets this year, so, and they didn't come in till at least halfway through the year, so there is going to be more of an increase in streets.
Okay. But
I can double check my numbers.
okay. I would have anticipated about a 10% jump in general government and police, though, being that I think you have about the same number of people.
I'll double check my numbers.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be low for police.
Unless people opted out or traditionally have opted out, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, well, I do know in the police department, there was one person who was in, and the person that we hired is not in, so that could account for that. It wouldn't take much to account for 10%.
Yeah, and same way with streets, adding people.
We didn't have anybody, when we had people retire at the end of last year, John, my recollection is we were gonna hold off on the hiring, you know, to make up for time. So we went like 3 or 4 months without hiring anybody, so we had maybe 2 guys or 1 guy for a couple months.
Yes.
And then when we hired, I think we hired 2 people in streets, so that 3-month period would, 3 to 4 month period, that quarter would have maybe constituted some of it, but whether it constitutes the full amount that you're referring to, we'd have to go probably back and delve deeper into that, but certainly some of it, I think.
I'm thinking that's.
And the retirees start paying into their health insurance. Some of them started already, but by next year, all of them will have started. So this year, we absorbed pretty much 100% of the cost. Now next year, they start with co-pays.
Okay. Now, okay, so
Yeah.
that is so we're still working through that on the parking enforcement. I know that charge pops up in parking enforcement, so we're still working through that commitment we gave.
Oh, yeah, it was
Okay,
for like a 5-year, depending on when they retired, it could go on for 5 years, at their age of retirement. Now, some, because they were Medicare eligible, you know, it didn't really benefit them very long. But in the case of the parking person, there's several more years left.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Keep it 6. Okay. Yeah, the streets number being higher than I would have
Yeah.
anticipated, that didn't surprise me, but the general government and the police numbers showing minimal change,
Mhm.
they were more what,
Yes.
they surprised me more.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's who's signed up or who's in the program versus opting out,
Okay.
or who may have switched in the process.
Well, I know general government had a person retire, and her health insurance copay is just starting to kick in. So that kind of offsets part of it.
Okay.
Do you want to jump to police?
Sure.
Well, before we do that, are there other, I mean, basically, we need to look at the expenses and see where we can carve those back. Is that what we're saying here?
Yes,
Or-
but Sean has, maybe they're sent out in your packet, but Sean has some new expenses. I don't know if you want to go down through them, but that's, you know, that's some of the costs that Lori has budgeted in there and trying to fit into the budget for next year.
Ralph, I just taking a quick look, if we started at 510, if you take out the 350 because say we finance the roof, that gets you down to 160, and you take out the 50 for streets that you're going to, you know, account for in liquid fuels, we're down to 110. Right there, so if we can carve anything else out, then
Yeah.
and that doesn't take into account CATA yet.
Correct. CAT is, you know, I'm gonna say 25,000 roughly with capital and operating contributions, it's in that neighborhood.
How many line items do we have for legal counsel expense?
There's one in the council, there's one under general government, and I think the police have one. I don't think there was any for anybody else,
Okay, because I noticed in
but we have,
I noticed the expense for council went, but it was budgeted for 1,021.
What's the account number for any police?
That is 400,314. And the budget for 22 is $5,000. And I can see we're over budget,
Yeah.
we're over budget right now on this one, and I'm not quite sure why that is at this point.
I think there's been a lot of things that have been sent to legal counsel to look at,
Well, I don't know.
not free.
That's another discussion, but
But I think if you look at general government, that one's pretty high still, and it's the same thing. It's all the stuff that's been, that one, we budgeted 600, and it's sitting at 6,000. So every time something's sent to them to look at, that's a cost. And it is very high this year.
what was that line item?
It's 408,310.
That's 406,310 is general government. So, so yeah, they're both definitely up.
Well, I'd kind of like to spend some time and go back and see where these costs occurred and when they were approved and
Well, we can provide all the invoices if you wanna see them. It tells you what they were for.
Yeah, I took copies of everything
Do you
if
guys
you
want us,
wanna see them.
do you guys want us to pull that, or?
I can, give it to her to, get a copy and send out.
So, just out of curiosity, was this just an odd year, or is this, if you look back like 5 years, have we had, because I can see legal expenses going up and down over time. Is it possible to kind of get maybe a 5 or a 7 year look back to see what kind of trends there are? It may be just a cyclical sort of thing, but we can't tell if we only have 21 and 22 budget numbers here.
We could pull those line items for the last 10 years, 15 years, it's
That's
all
not
one line,
necessary.
so.
No, it's not necessary. Just give us for this year.
There's been a lot of
What you see,
ordinance
I
work.
have that,
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
I have all the back years for the budget. I can pull that. But how many years did you want?
They said they didn't want you to do it, Lori.
Well, Doug said he
No, we
didn't
said
want
just
it.
one.
I said I wanted 5, so.
Pull 3 is an end.
I mean, I can look back at 2020 on this sheet here,
Right.
and I can see some numbers on the same order as what you're listing for this year's budget. So I'd say you want to go back you want to go back before 2020, I would say. Get a couple years before that. You don't need the invoices,
Last year,
just.
last year, a lot of our legal expenses were due to COVID. It was so new, and we were getting a lot of direction from our legal counsel. So I remember talking to her many times in a finance committee, trying to figure things out. So I know last year was COVID related, so that was kind of an anomaly.
Well, I would tend to think that makes a lot of sense, Lori. That's why I'm saying 2020, 2019, and 2018, they might be more normal years and give you a basis for saying whether or not we're in line or out of line for next year. Hopefully, we don't have any more COVID questions, hopefully, as we sit here all with our masks on.
If it's COVID related, can we get some reimbursement for it?
We did get some revenue,
Well,
coming
obviously
in.
not enough.
That would have been last year. I think we got 30,000 last year, and there's some money that came in this year.
Isn't that the same amount, one at 30 and 30?
Well, there was, yeah, I think we did get 30 and 30 last year, help cover some of the, some costs related to COVID. And then, of course, there was the capital money that came in about the middle of this year.
But that's restricted to.
Yeah, restricted to certain more or less capital projects.
But not all capital projects.
When
Well-
we put in for it, we put in for water and sewer and pretty much to get this set up in here.
Yeah, for what
Okay.
we could use the money for, is limited to capital projects. Or like if you were a county, maybe you could do it for health-related expenses, but we don't have that here.
And then these other monies that come out to the county, we're not getting anything, right?
Not that we know, they
doesn't-
haven't decided, I don't think.
The informal feedback is probably not. They're going to use the funds for the Center Crest renovations over there that they're building. So, Lori, even if we thought we were going to get it, we typically don't budget,
Right.
hypothetical numbers.
Because then if you don't get it, you're
Mhm.
you find yourself in a bad place.
Lori, am I incorrect in remembering that last year, as we were going through the budget, you basically went back and you gave us a set of budget numbers going back almost 10 years. I'm not asking for that. It was like a big spreadsheet.
I don't remember, but maybe they did.
Okay. And maybe, does,
I have a huge
I think so.
spreadsheet that goes back
Pardon?
many years.
yeah, I'm just saying that if, like, going back to maybe 2018, and we just get the final numbers for 18 and 19 and 20, and then we can, we can sort of look past 2021 and sort of say what we think 2022 should be. That might give us a little bit firmer grasp of whether we're doing something now that's in line or out of line as far as some of these costs.
Yeah, I think the other thing that might be helpful is if you could do a look back for the same time period, say, how many ordinances did we review during this time period? Because I suspect there's a lot of time put into reviewing ordinances.
I would agree with that, but, we've used our local solicitor, who is a lot less expensive than the solicitor in Pittsburgh, so it depends on the topic. So we have to figure that in, but, I guess we try to figure out, Lori has all the invoices and all the hours where they go, so we can try to capture some of that information. I'm hearing you just want the bottom line number, and I'm hearing you want the details, so.
Yeah, the details I'm gonna leave to somebody else.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure that,
It sounds like it'd be easier just to print it out the way it is. For wherever that reporting year is, it sort of shows everything. There's no sense just putting numbers to another number that we're not gonna understand what it's supporting, if the other information in the middle isn't there.
We can give you everything we have, let you look through it, and, all that stuff, however you want it.
I think just the way it is presented now is probably the way we should get it.
Okay.
yeah, but do you want any more years, maybe? Or you're saying you don't think you need to go back before 2020?
You could go back 3 years from 2020, not included, because we already have 2020.
Right, okay.
We
But-
can electronically send you the final budgets from any year you want. If you want to go back, if you want 5 of them, we can send them to you.
Well,
It'll take a couple minutes.
okay. I'm thinking 3 prior to this would be fine, just to make sure that we're on a normal trend, that we aren't extrapolating from 1 year, 1 or 2 years.
Sure, that's
Yeah.
not a problem.
So you're asking for 2017 through 2021.
Yeah,
Okay,
Well, we only have 20 and 21. I mean, basically what we,
right. We've got part of it here, but we
Yeah.
just don't have,
yeah. It'd be 17, 18, and 19.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey Lori, do you have any ideas of where we can carve out $100,000? Because we're talking about 5,000 for some lawyers. Like, where can we get some bucks?
Well, that's your decision, not mine.
It's our decision, but you can give us some options.
That's your decision, because you know where you put your priorities.
you're putting her on the spot.
I'm
That's
not
not
meaning to
fair
put
to
her on the
Lori.
spot, but is there like any easy stuff? Like, have you seen any trends of things that, are there things that we absolutely cannot not spend money on? Or are there things that like, well, maybe we can put off Peter to pay Paul? Like, where do you, can you give us any easy options?
Not, most of the stuff that I gave you options are the things I already said. the rest of it is pretty much, I mean, the problem is everything's going up in cost. Even this is a best guess. I don't know where prices are gonna land for many things. You know, I don't know if cell phone costs are gonna go up. They're already saying natural gas is gonna go up, so I increased that. I don't know if our phone costs are gonna go up more than we expect. So, you know, I don't know. Again, it's where do you put your priorities? Do you have a place you want us to look? Do you want us to look at the street, police? We haven't really had any crossing guards. We just got one this year, or this last hay. We increased the parking enforcement hours. We also increased our revenue. So it's where you guys want us to look. I don't have an easy answer. There's so much of it that really isn't at our option to change. There's a lot that salaries, the salaries are negotiated in the contract, as is the health insurance. You gotta give people the parts and the equipment to do their job. So, you know, that means fixing cars and repairing streets and plowing streets, and all that comes with a cost. You can opt to not sweep the street. That would save on the cost of fuel and a person to run it. But is that where you want to? And that's not going to be a big change. But there's all kinds of services that we offer that you could choose to not provide. But that's your choices, not mine.
Thanks, Lori.
Can I ask Melissa what you want to spend $100,000 on? I mean, where do you want to spend that money?
I don't know.
Oh.
Well, that would cover what we're,
That-
No,
that
I
was
don't-
deficit.
I
That
don't
would just
have a
cover the
project.
deficit.
There's a deficit of 100,000.
I was just looking at, like, all the budgets that we've looked at so far have, other than this one, have been close to even.
Tight, yeah.
Real tight, but close to even, so what is in here that we can carve out? Or is there nothing when, to keep the same amount of services?
Without raising taxes.
Yeah, I don't wanna raise taxes, but I'm not on council after January, so honestly, it doesn't affect me other than what I pay. So, I don't know. That's a tough decision. If all we're talking about is services here and what services we cut, that's a different conversation.
What's the mill bring in today, Ralph?
About $100,000.
100,000.
Ralph,
Yes.
what's the, to make it fair to everybody, can we do across the board 5% cut in everybody's budget? Would that equal 100,000? Or, you know, I don't wanna pick on the police or the streets or the parks, or, but
You gotta get the
is
money
there a way
somewhere.
to say, hey, go back and sharpen your pencil and cut 5%?
We could look at it, but you're not gonna maintain the same level of service.
Well, yeah,
I hear you.
Yes,
but that would be something that would fit into our budget.
yes.
And we may have to cut back a little bit for at least a year,
Yeah.
Maybe two.
maybe two.
The way our years seem to be going belly up. You know, you and Lori and Dawn are, what's your thoughts on that?
Well,
Lori, what do you
I
think?
think Lori's looking for council to say, here's your marching orders.
Yeah,
If that's what the marching orders are, that's what we'll find. We'll find 5%. You know, like Lori said, you've already promised certain wages in your contracts.
right.
Nothing we can do about that. With the people that are here, you know, if somebody retires, we wouldn't fill that position. You know, now, the services we offer, maybe we don't run the street sweeper
Yeah.
because we don't want the overtime.
Right.
you know, the police are gonna have to work out something with the hours of coverage,
Yeah.
so. You know, the general fund, we'd have to maybe do something in the office differently with hours.
Wow.
But, that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there, you know, we already went over some of the capital projects, but if there's something we didn't discuss, you know, we could think about putting that off for some time or buying it in a different manner,
Yeah.
you know, something like that.
When was the last time you raised taxes?
Last
I
year.
think it was
Last year?
I'm not sure if we did it last year. I know
Was it in a half a mil?
With COVID, I think we held off.
Oh, we might have, that's true.
I guess my concern is if we're talking about the cost of goods and services going up, Lori doesn't know what things are going to cost that we need to run the borough. If that's the problem, if it's healthcare that's going up, us cutting 5% isn't going to do anything but put off the problem. Unless we have like real conversations about cutting services now that are cut forever. It's not just enough to say like 5% off of every budget, cause that's just gonna be, next year you have a 7% problem.
We can't
So-
sustain the way we're going now. We can't do it.
Yeah,
The borough cannot afford it. We can't.
So
Unless
how much was it the last time you raised?
I'm
How
sorry.
much was it the last time you raised
Yeah,
taxes?
I would say it was probably about a half a mil. Is that your recollection, Dawn?
Yeah, years ago, we used to have the same problem. It would be a couple of years, they wouldn't raise taxes for a long time. Then they wanted to raise it 3 or 4%. And back then, we always said, look, well, let's raise it a quarter or half for a couple of years, so that everybody doesn't get that shock of 3% or whatever at one time. Now, whether you still want to think that, because it's still, even a 0.5% is only half of what you've lost in the budget, so. But it's something to think about, because I know people would rather see it go up just a little bit rather than a lot at one time, so it's not a shock to people.
That's very true, buddy. We've done it both ways. And like Melissa's saying, you shock people if you wait.
Yeah.
If you absolutely have to do it, a small increment is much better than whacking somebody over the head a couple of years later.
But even if we do a half a mil, we'd still have a gap between what we're bringing in and what we're putting out.
Yes,
So
unless we.
we still have the problem of trying to find something to cut.
Yes.
Yeah.
it depends on your house. What is it per person, do you know per household, what, like 1 mil, what's that on average? Is that like $150 per house? 1 mil?
The houses are assessed.
I would have to figure that out. I don't have that right here.
I
We
don't,
figured out before how much it is.
I had it way back in our, one of our previous presentations. You know, the average house, even though the market value might be such and such, the assessed value is more like right around 50,000, so.
Yeah,
I can bring those numbers Thursday, because I have it in one of our slides, but it's a pretty accurate assessed, or the value, average value of a house, assessed value. I can give that to you. And then we talk in dollars and cents, what are we talking for a half a mil versus a mil and so on.
Well, the other thing we haven't talked about either is that we've mentioned it from time to time, and that's creating new revenue. And
Yes.
we haven't done a whole lot in addressing that, and it seems like a poor time now to start it, but we need to start looking at something, whether it's in the fees, with Musser Lane, maybe we could do something down there to.
That's not $500,000.
I know, but I'm just saying, to look at the various areas that we do, that we don't spend a lot, we don't have a lot of expense to, but we're still not, we're still using people, but not necessarily charging for it.
Well, I don't, at Musser Lane, that's just the,
Yeah.
That also falls under the refuse fund, that
Yeah.
isn't under the general, so.
that's all right.
Well, but Randy, that's following up on we sort of had a conversation, I think it was the last meeting, about whether or not we needed to consider our zoning fee, the $2 fee, whether or not maybe that should be raised.
That was talked about, we said some time ago, zoning, planning, and HARB should pay for itself. We did create a new fee for the first time here at the beginning of this year for the HARB applications, maybe that should be looked at. There are some zoning applications that come in, we've adjusted those fees periodically. You're going to look at the fee schedule here in a couple weeks. We'll take a look at adjusting those numbers.
Because I think even with whatever project it is, it's under fees, we're probably getting charged more for any materials that we do need, that we still need to cover those additional costs, whatever they might be.
Yep.
Yes, it's like IT fees and telephone fees, yes, those costs go up, so yes.
And there's the building permit fees that
Yeah.
that the finance committee said we probably should hold off for a year in raising. The-
That's what John was referring to. I mean,
Yeah. Your question, Melissa? A 1 mil is equal to $45
Okay.
I was gonna
for
say
every
43.
$1,000 of assessed property value.
For every $1,000 is $45.
Correct.
Because, the average assessed property is about 45,000.
I hate to say it, but I think the borough spends a lot of labor cost on all the activities that go on with the borough, and we don't charge for any of those services, is that right, Ralph?
That's
I mean,
correct.
everything goes on from the cruise to anything nonprofit that goes on in town.
That-
The borough spends a lot of labor money,
Yeah.
I think.
The topic has been brought up and talked about by council, but we haven't created a fee schedule.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty tough to ask the nonprofits when they're.
I was gonna say that,
Work.
that's the other side of the coin, you could pretty much kill those special events if you create a fee that covers the expense, our labor.
I hate to say it, but following up on Buddy's comment is, there's a letter in the packet tonight congratulating us on providing a free locksmith service.
Yeah,
And I was thinking it would have been nice to have a check sent.
Yeah, $50,000 would be real good.
No, but a lot of small $20 ones could get you a step there.
tens and twenties.
Yeah.
That's a lot of goodwill that they do that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that gets to where the comment that you're making, Buddy, about we do provide free services.
Well, if I was the one that was locked out, I'd be happy to give them up my door.
Been there, done that, yeah.
Yeah. Having been the kid at the gas station, I used to be the guy with the shivs, so. Yeah.
Too bad I get the car thief.
Small towns, they know who you are.
Well, that was back in the days when there was a vent you could power to.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not as old as you, Mike.
Do we know when we're gonna get the CATA information?
I got the number, if you want me to run back and get it.
No, as long as you have it, we'll get in here at some
Yeah,
point.
let me take a look here, see if I have it in my email.
We're getting into 10 minutes left for the chief to do his spiel.
Yeah, do you want to, well, if you want to give us the rundown of what you're proposing, those new items, or whatever you want to mention while we're here, Sean.
Well, I didn't know what I was even to be here for. The proposed items are pretty cut and dry. There's, if there's if that 100,000, if there's some things in there that I could whittle down on mine would be, we could probably limp by another year with the radios that we have. They're outdated. 2 of them are shot. They're not being fixed or worked on anymore by Motorola, so there's no service for them. But most of everything that I'm looking for in there can be split up into payments down the road, 5-year plan.
It's a question I had, does that include everything you have listed? That would be a 5-year plan?
The big items, yeah. I did not.
And do we know what number that would be per month or per year?
It should be.
I think it's
my
Is
list
it in
there.
here?
Sean, do you have your,
No, I thought we were gonna be talking about the part-time officer staff, the money that we need to finish out the year.
No. that's
Here's some,
yours.
you have tasers here, come up, I'll give you my information. This is,
Tasers, yeah, the tasers can be, they're definitely
here,
all need
Sean.
replaced.
This is for the, that was what was in the packet.
Tasers.
They're well past their functionality and coverage for liability. If we even would deploy a taser now, there's very little coverage that we have with taser itself. They're about 5 or 6 years past their operational value. So the tasers, they're a big ticket item, and they are a 5-year plan on that. Let's see here. There are 21,000 to replace all of them.
So you're talking about
They're on a
4,000.
payment plan, right?
Right.
So you're talking about 4,500 a year for 5 years.
Yeah. Those are on a payment plan, so we
The,
have those,
yeah, tasers,
there's a ton.
the license plate reader and the radios were bundled up into one. The license plate reader is what you see on the back of some state cars and township cars. It'll take a picture of any vehicle that's registered, that has a registration. It'll take a picture of it, it'll run the tag, it'll tell you if that person's wanted, it'll tell you if the vehicle has insurance, it'll tell you if it's registered, it'll even tell you if the owner is licensed. It's a very good tool to have for public safety. It would, pay itself off, I would do believe, in fine money in a couple of years, but that's all lumped into a lump sum with the portable radios. And that one is,
That doesn't begin until 2023.
it doesn't begin until 2023, and,
One year.
right, if we do it that way, I was hoping that I could, like, if we purchased them outright, I couldn't get a grant to retro pay that. Now, if we lump it out into ultimately a 6-year program now, there's a better chance of getting monies through grants to help offset those costs.
So if you were to apply for these grants for this, this material, would there be any money needed for matching upfront in 2022?
No,
So this one wouldn't affect us
no,
until
that doesn't
20
affect us until 2023.
Okay.
We get the equipment, and if we pieced them out, like say if I got a portable, 2 portable radios a year for 6 years, 7 years, by the time we get to the 7th year, the portables will be outdated, the technology will be obsolete, and we'll be back to square one. This is about the only way we could actually do it all in one lump.
Do you want Sean to take a couple minutes to talk about the part-timers?
That's the $15,815.
Sean, there's only about 8 minutes left. Do you want to hit to the part-timers real quick?
Okay, so we have had an issue where we had some unforeseen events happen with injuries, illnesses, COVID related, that put us over our allotted budget for this year for 2021. We're with our part-time salary. So we had, and I'm not going to use names for officers because of, we're talking about injuries and illnesses. So Officer 1 had the surgery that lasted 2.5 weeks longer than what the doctors projected. So her recovery, or the recovery time of that officer was 2.5 weeks longer. We had Officer number 2 had an injury where he was out for 8 days. We had another Officer number 3 with the same injury, plus he had COVID. He was out for 10 days. And Officer number 2 then had COVID, out for 10 days. Another officer was out for 2 weeks on paternal leave. Another officer had COVID in his family when he was out for 4 days. I had COVID in my family and I was out for 4 days. So there was a total of 6 officers. 5 officers had COVID-related illnesses, or they were involved in COVID-related illnesses unexpectedly. We cut some hours. We did not use very little overtime for full-time officers to do this. We used, to cover these downfalls or shortages of hours were significant. We used primarily, we changed my schedule around so I'd work weekends, and we used the part-time, which was a fraction of the cost. Now that did set our part-time, now we're short $3,000 to finish out the rest of the year to get, we need about $3,000 to get through the rest of the year for additional part-time salary. I'm proposing that we, if we use some of the money that the county gave the department during the last year for the COVID, I don't know how it was put in the budget, but we haven't spent it on what we intended to spend it on, which was the policy review. So that's $10,000 that's, was made available to us because of COVID, and a lot of this stuff is COVID related. So I'm proposing that to get us through. We have vacations coming up where we do need to utilize part-time staff a little bit more.
So you're
So
talking
there's
on
the
between
shortage.
now and the end of December?
Yeah,
You're not talking about next year's
No,
budget?
we're talking about this year.
Okay.
And these were unforeseen illnesses and instances. Pregnancy was definitely, we couldn't do anything about that. Paternity leave and the COVID. So.
Chief, I noticed in one of these packets I looked at from you, that you wanted to carry the 10,000 that you didn't spend into next year.
Yeah, that was
So
before I
gonna-
knew about this.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, that's gonna affect that
Right, yeah, they could drop
through the
through.
policy reviews.
Yeah, you gotta make some decisions, and I think, I don't wanna cut hours during the holiday season. I don't wanna cut hours at all, but I understand it could be a possibility when we can do a little bit of a mix. We have been pretty, we've been going outside the box a little bit on how we don't offer overtime to cover shifts, primarily changing, my shift around a lot and using the part-timer.
Chief, whatever happened to the proposal of sharing some time with state police?
Sharing time with state police.
Well, coverage for the borough, that the state police would cover the borough. What happened to that program?
When we had it for the furlough, I haven't been directed to do it.
How did that
since.
work out?
Well, we had a fatal accident, and there was no Bellefonte police cars there, and my phone rang off the hook, and it wasn't very pleasant for me to have to answer why we didn't have any. There's some pretty angry people in this room that we didn't have a Bellefonte police officer at the scene whenever we were all on furlough. So,
Yeah.
that's
Can't
a
plan for that.
yeah, that's a call that I would take from a directive from council to do.
In your defense, you had coordinated with Spring
Yes.
Township to make sure
Right.
that there was coverage.
Yeah, with the state police, yes.
Well, yeah, and so,
Yeah. Mm.
I mean, you were not deficient in your duties.
Correct.
In terms of
Correct, I was
protecting
not.
the safety of the
Yeah,
borough.
when they
So
met
that-
with the state police recommended certain days and certain hours where they had
Mhm.
extra coverage that they could help us cover.
Right.
And it just happened to be during the day, in the mornings, and that kind of thing. So it was unfortunate that we didn't have anybody on scene, but it was, that's just how it played out with the directive that they got to cut services.
Mhm.
But even with that, and I think this gets a little too in the weeds, but you were required to bring the state police in anyway for a fatality, is that correct?
We're not required, it's good on a fatality like that, yeah, I mean, we don't have anybody trained in accident reconstruction for a fatal, so, you know, some departments don't call the state police, and we would, in that case, we would have called them anyhow, not to handle the whole investigation, but to do part of it that, you know, they have the equipment to do. You know, as far as the state police covering, you know, they will, I mean, like you know, they can't say no, but there are certain things that they, you know, that we would do that they wouldn't do, that they probably don't have the manpower to do as well. They're not gonna go to every
Stay
single
on
call.
the issue with the time we have.
We have about 2 more minutes.
Your number one issue right now is you need $3,000 to cover the part-timers for the
Correct.
remainder of the year.
Correct.
Anybody have any suggestions?
Grab it from what you suggested.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
If it's here, you got it in the budget, so check with whatever that line item is that Lori has it under.
So, I mean, there's some flexibility with all of the different line
We're
items.
pretty good with
You
our
could
budget.
You could talk to Lori,
Right.
and she may be able to say, well, you haven't used funds
Right.
for line item six,
Yeah.
and you're not expected to use them by the year. We
Yes.
can move some of that over,
Yeah.
which is generally how a budget works anyway.
Yeah, right, right.
All right.
Let me break in for 30 seconds for CATA. The projected upper end numbers, and this is what Luana gave us, is $26,044 in total. That's both capital and operating. It's a 7.78% increase over this year. And they, remember, they have a fiscal year that starts in July. So July 1st, we would see that increase for the second half of the year into the first half of 2023. So that 7.78% increase is about, what did I write down here? Is it about $1,300, and so you're looking at about $650 or thereabouts. That would be the dollar increase for 2022, or about half of that 7.78% increase over their fiscal year.
What was that number again?
$26,044. Again, half of that would be for 2022, and then the other half, the first half of 2023.
And that's not at full service either, I understand, because
That-
they've
we didn't
already
even
cut.
talk- Yeah, we didn't even talk service.
Yeah,
We talked about dollars that we would have to pay, so,
right, and that's bothersome just because they're traveling through, that you're having to pay that,
yes,
especially when they're cutting back
yes.
at the same time.
Yeah.
I heard a new term, it's called skimflation. It's like the hotels you go to, and they don't do the laundry anymore. It's the same idea, you're paying for the same, but you're getting less. This we're actually paying more.
3-pound can of coffee is only 26 ounces.
So, we need to cut this off.
I'm
'cause
good,
it's-
I'm good, yeah, I gave you the numbers, so I'm good.
Okay, so we need to go to the regular meeting now.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Thank Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Lori, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The November 15th Bellefonte Borough Council meeting is called to order. We will have a pledge of allegiance, moment of silence, and a roll call.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Eaton. Ms. Lombarski. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Prendergast.
Here.
Mr. Halderman. Ms. Costa-Macy.
Here.
Ms. Cleaton.
Here.
Mr. Brackville.
Here.
Ms. Abbott.
Here.
Mayor Wilson.
Present.
Are there any additions to the agenda for this evening? Okay, seeing none, any public comments? If so, please come up to the podium.
Larry?
Larry, you can do it now if you'd like.
Okay, take the mask off. Good evening, everybody. My name's Larry Lingle. My wife and I have the 325 West High Street My Cafe Buzz building. And first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for helping us through the first phase of our project with the roof. And eventually, a little bit later, we'll be doing the deck when the weather gets nice, hopefully in the spring or whatever. But I hope everybody's in agreement that it looks pretty nice. We've had a lot of great comments and stuff, and people are really appreciating it or whatever because of the beautiful weather that Bellefonte typically has.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, the reason I'm here tonight is the zoning, under my understanding, calls for 150 feet vendor trucks to be away from existing businesses. And it's also under my understanding that when events happen in Bellefonte, then sometimes that's circumvented and the trucks can then come close or whatever. So my concern is that, one, that you're trying to promote Bellefonte businesses on one hand. On the other hand, you're actually hindering Bellefonte businesses because what's happening is the day, for instance, I came back from a trip here just recently. There were 2 trucks parked outside of my daughter's business, Scott's, and I can't think of the other name of the truck that sells pork or whatever. But my daughter sells pork sandwiches and stuff, so she went an entire day without selling a sandwich. She sold coffee or whatever. So as much as you're trying to promote downtown businesses, and you're doing a great job with events because the turnouts and stuff have been phenomenal, you're actually hurting at least our business and stuff. And it's my understanding Bonfato's is the same way, maybe some others the same situation. So I guess I'm asking that somewhere along the line you could take into consideration that you need to enforce your 150 feet at least for those events. It's kind of like, you know, for Penn State businesses downtown State College, they live for Penn State events. Well, Bellefonte businesses live for the events that you folks are promoting, and you're, like I say, you're doing a great job. You know, whether it's the car event or whether it's for the kids or, you know, the 10 or 15 other events that you guys do through the year. But then if you then allow those vendor trucks to come in and take the best part of that business off, you're really hurting us. So again, if there's any way you could take that into consideration down the road, I would certainly appreciate it.
So in order to do that, it's written into the ordinance with the 150 feet, so we wouldn't have to look at the ordinance and see what would need to be changed. I think what we can do is probably refer that to the streets committee, because that usually happens on the streets.
Okay.
And we could invite you to come, and we can have a more detailed discussion at that time, if you feel comfortable with that.
So,
Streets committee meets every Thursday at noon.
okay. So one thing I guess I would ask, that the reason that you're having the vendor trucks there is that you don't think there's enough coverage with the existing food people that you already have? Is that, I mean, I'm not sure the reasoning behind why you'd have that there.
Well, one of the things, Larry, is that I know that on Sunday, I don't know, I know Bonfato's isn't open on Sundays. I don't know, I know you're not open Mondays, but I don't know about Sundays.
We're open Sundays.
You're open Sundays?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think there was some events, there might have been some food trucks there during the Bellefonte Summer Sounds, the gazebo. I think that I saw a couple food trucks there during that. I don't know if you guys were open during that in the summertime. Were you open?
We were.
Were you open in the evenings?
My daughter actually stayed a couple evenings. And I guess that's the other consideration that I think if we had better communications, that I can assure you that my daughter would change her hours to coincide with whatever events that you were gonna have to make sure that somebody was open.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can tell you right now that starting in June, next year, June, the first Sunday in June to the third Sunday in October, or August, only August for now. There'll be music in the park from 7 to 8.
And we're always looking for ice cream.
Yep, always looking for some places to, but, has to be marketed a little bit, you
Yeah,
have to
well-
let people know you're open as well.
I can assure you, the only reason it hasn't happened already is just like, my daughter's like everybody else, can't find help.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
those hours would have already been extended.
Yeah, I got you.
But I totally agree with what you're saying, Tom. I mean, makes total sense.
Well, before you even opened and Bonfato's moved down there, we talked to Dave about being open for these concerts on Sunday.
Right.
He assured us, he was, yeah, I'm gonna be open, I'm gonna be open. He's not. But that's right, I mean, I'm not trying to tell them how to run their business.
Right,
Everybody knows how to run the business, when they can make money, when they can't.
right.
But I think part of the confusion then is with the event people. They say, well, I don't know, nobody's open down there, and maybe a food truck would be helpful for the people that are attending these events. So, yeah, you're right, but everybody needs to stay on top of what's going on in town. I mean,
Again, I think it's a communication thing, so I think
Yeah.
if someone said that, hey, we're having this event, shame on me or my daughter or whatever, if she would say, can't be open or whatever, because, yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to have somebody there at that time, and I totally agree with that.
well, we have 3 organizations or 4 organizations that put on events in town, so I don't know if we have one central location that could tell you everything that's going on. I'm sure that Gary would probably at least have some idea of what's going on, or Jenny Lynn from DBI. Should be, either of those 2 people should know everything that's going on and when events are happening. So either they.
I've been invited to go to the DBI meeting, so that'll be the next
Yeah, just
meeting that we go
ask them to
just for what
send
you're
you a
saying.
schedule or something, email.
I think you're right, Tom, about the communication, both of you, because I had one of the food vendors ask me or say something to me, and they said they understand the 150 feet ordinance, if you're open, whatever, but they said, what happens if they're not open? Does that 150 feet ordinance stand? Because there's no food, but nobody's having food, but the
Well,
food vendor can be there. I don't know, I don't
I
want
think the ordinance is that it does, but I don't think it makes any sense that if restaurants in that 150 feet are not open, it should not apply.
Well, I
think
just wanna
those-
say, you need to communicate with the food vendors then, so they know, say if Larry's not open or something else, or he's out of town or whatever, they could set up that day and take a space,
Yeah, I think there seems to be a lot of ideas here. I think if we take this to the streets committee, where we can
Right.
go into this in more detail, and maybe bring in some of the nonprofits to have this discussion. It may just be a minor cleanup of the ordinance, but right now, I think we need to move ahead with the rest of the agenda.
I'd like to have one more comment, and that is
Okay.
that you're not the only business that complains about the food trucks. When we have the programs that are downtown, they're situated in different places. Maybe we should consider, when we're looking at places in the park, that they're over in the figure 8, if that area is not being used, or somewhere like that.
And I
Okay.
also
But-
ask that you invite food trucks, especially those that live in Bellefonte, because they, much like the short-term rental ordinance, they should be part of the conversation. And also, keep in mind that our residents are the ones that have buying power, and they're going to these food, like, I want Brazilian food, I'm going to a Brazilian food truck. You guys, even if you made Brazilian food, it wouldn't be made by a Brazilian. So, these people are residents, it's what the consumer wants as well. Like, I appreciate you being a brick and mortar, and I own a business too, so I totally get it. Competition is not, the most fun thing. But it's also what our residents want and what their buying power will get them. So it's more complicated than just the brick and mortar businesses being upset that a food truck's parked there. Because we also have to think about the needs and wants of our residents as well, especially those that pay tax dollars and and pay their tax dollars to do our budget. So I think there's more people to bring to the table than just what we've mentioned so far.
Okay, so, Mary and you can work together to figure out who to invite to the meeting. It
Yes.
probably won't be this Thursday, because that's too quick a turnaround. It's definitely not going to be the next Thursday, because that's Thanksgiving. So it'll have to be after that.
At some point.
Yeah, I'll wait till somebody reaches out for me. Again, I thank you for your time this evening, and, again, just thank you for everything. You guys have been extremely helpful.
We've got a temporary ice rink going in there this winter, so keep an eye on that.
Hot coffee and chocolate.
That's
There
correct.
you go.
Thanks, Larry.
Maybe a hot toddy, right?
That's correct.
Rental ice skates and helmets.
Thank you.
Yep.
There is one in the back.
Do we have any other public comments for items on the agenda? Okay, then we will move on for the rest of the agenda now. Consent agenda, have a motion to approve the minutes.
first.
I'll make the motion.
Prendergast,
I'll second it, Clayton.
Prendergast and Clayton. Any changes?
I have an addition if we could. I'm trying to find it here quick. I'm not gonna find it there. In minutes. We had, we approved the resolution, but the way it's laid out, it doesn't look like it was basically the resolution for reimagine Appalachia.
Uh-huh.
And it basically has, it has a paragraph about Appalachia, but there's a break and then it just talks about a number, resolution number. So while it looks like it's, you kind of think it's something else, like a different.
Oh, you
rather than-
move them together.
Yeah, it just needs to be a little clear as to what it's representing. It talks about taking the resolution off table, and then there's a space between it, and then it talks about a resolution number that was voted on. But it doesn't specify the name of the resolution in that motion, which I think it did when the motion was made. Under old business. Yeah, I think it's there somewhere.
I think, Randy, could it be resolved by just moving that second paragraph up into the first paragraph?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would cover it.
Thank you.
we can fix that.
Any other changes? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved with that one amendment. Okay, communications.
There's Christmas caroling on December 21st by St. John's Catholic School.
They're requesting the ability to sing Christmas carols to local businesses and shoppers. Need a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion, Brockville.
Seconded, Prendergast.
Brackville and Pendergast. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, so moved. Okay, the second one, St. John's Catholic Church is also requesting to use Talleyrand Park for their Nativity Christmas pageant on Sunday, December 12th from 12 to 4. Their request to waive fees, we need a motion to this effect.
I'll make that motion.
Prendergast
Second.
and Halderman. Any discussion?
When we're talking about waiving fees, is that all the fees, or is that just they still pay the $25 or whatever?
They
pay nothing.
They pay the.
I think they pay the administration fee.
They pay the administration fee. Because they are a nonprofit here in town. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Next one, there's a thank you letter from Center Safe to Bellefonte Borough for hanging the purple lights or the beginning, I believe it was beginning of October.
Yeah, that was Domestic Violence Awareness
Yes.
Month.
CNET's requesting the borough to sponsor 2 of the Spring Creek Watershed meetings. This was last done in 2019.
Motion to approve,
I'll make the motion.
Eaton,
Second.
Prendergast. Discussion,
There was nothing in that correspondence about the cost of underwriting these 2 events?
It's hard to figure out. It's a formula based on the past 5 years of average broadcasts broken up with the 9 members, I think they said. So they don't have an exact dollar amount.
Okay, and this would be 1 event in 2022 and 1 in 2023?
Yes.
yes. Other comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Spring Creek Watershed Resources Monitoring Project financial support request came in. The annual amount is $2,859 for 2022. We've done this in the past, and it would go to the Keystone Water Resources Center.
It's already in the budget, right?
I think I don't think we typically take it out of the general fund. I think we typically use the bulk water funds, and then we're asking for it to be,
So what we've done the last month and a half of requests like this, we've passed the motions to send, to request the Finance Committee to review this as an addition to the budget.
That sounds like a good plan. I'll make that motion.
Prendergast,
I'll second.
Eaton, discussion?
This is the watershed health report that we get.
well, they do a water monitoring. They move the project around, periodically, but they monitor the, Spring Creek water, different locations, and then they do a report. So if that's what you're talking about, that's
Right.
what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it's like every year or so, there's
Yes.
a report on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so.
Any other questions, discussion?
This would go into next year's budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Request for a children's event during Victorian Christmas in Talleyrand Park. This came up at a previous meeting where an open bonfire type of thing was proposed as part of a special event. Our insurance company representative is recommending we do not approve it the way it was presented. They're asking that the event organizers use heat lamps or heating towers instead of an open flame type of bonfire type of thing, just because of the risk to people and children.
So we would need a motion to disapprove the initial request with an alternative conditional approval of renting heating towers as suggested by our insurance
I'll make that motion that we approve the request to use Talleyrand Park.
It's not
On-
Talleyrand
on-
Park, it's Gamble Mill.
Gamble Mill on condition that they use the heat towers and not the fire pit.
Okay,
Is it, okay.
We have to have a
I
second.
wait for
Second
this.
the motion.
Johnson, okay. Go ahead, ask your question.
Is that on our land?
No, but we have a liability policy because we allow public events. It's misstated in the letter, in the email, that it's our property. It's not our property.
Why would our,
We-
okay,
No, remember, if you go back a couple years ago, we said it was okay for the public to be on somebody else's property as long as we were covered. Our insurance company covers that property, so that's why they're involved, why we're involved.
would their insurance cover it?
It's possible, but, it's a little sticky because we were asked to cover the property because of public events, the Under the Lights program. They said they could fence it off if they want to. We agreed that we better not to fence off the property. So I don't think we should say no if they want to locate it somewhere else. or do something different, that's up to them.
Ralph, just for clarification, where is this property that
I
we're
believe
talking
it's
about?
right across from the Gamble Mill on the waterfront property that we sold to the developer.
Oh, okay, so there's a little wedge there that's part of the Gamble Mill as opposed to
I
the.
think
Grassy
it's
Park right
grassy
across the
area.
street,
Yeah.
John. You
Across
walk
the park.
across the bridge
Right
and
where
right
the-
there to your
Where the
left.
vendor's
Oh,
set
okay.
up for under the lights.
Okay, so that's not part of the waterfront, that's part of the Gamble Mill.
Part of the waterfront.
It's part of the waterfront. They're asking permission to
Oh.
do this.
Okay,
Okay. If it was on their own property, we wouldn't be talking about it.
It's also not Talleyrand Park, which is the way that
Yes,
it's printed here
yes.
in the agenda.
So if they don't want to use the towers, is this going to be referred to the Parks Committee when they come up with a resolution? Or who will approve? if
We're
they-
just gonna go back and tell them, we're not approving the open.
The fire pit.
Bonfire, fire pit. If they wanna come back with some alternative program, other than heat towers or whatever, they're welcome to do that.
Well, they do make gas-fired.
Yeah, I would maybe amend that amendment,
Yeah.
amend that to say just alternative heat source. No open fires, but
Yeah,
instead
not-
of just the.
Don't specify the towers, just an alternative heat source.
Yeah, I
Someone
mean,
would have to make that amendment.
I'll make that amendment.
because they could use the gas.
Yeah, there's a fire pit. We have one at home.
Yeah. Why don't you
Yeah.
bring yours down?
I could, if they asked me to.
So your amendment, to make clear for the transcription, it's a closed heating system, not an open fire, correct?
Right,
And
right.
Not an open fire.
It's an open fire that's fueled by propane or,
Right, not a wood
Natural gas.
fire.
so it's controlled, but even these towers are open flames. They're open flames too.
Yeah,
So,
they're just not as dangerous. Now we know what happened to bonfires, right?
the Christmas tree burnings back in the
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
early
those.
sixties.
Not
So,
here, obviously.
how did he revise the motion? I'm trying to figure that out.
What I hear him saying, and you tell me if I'm correct, is you amended that a conditional approval to use a closed fire system.
No, it might, to use an alternate fuel source besides wood. Because that way that would open a fire pit like Doug's talking about, that's a propane fueled.
It's a fire table fueled by natural gas or
Right.
propane. Many people have them. It doesn't create any smoke. It's controlled. You can put it out in an instant.
Okay, we need a second.
I'll second Homboski.
Questions?
Yeah,
I have one. I think we'd have to go back to our insurance coverage and make sure what he's asking us, because I'm looking at it as an open fire.
Mhm.
What he's saying is, it'd be hard to insure.
Sure.
And somebody falling in, whether, with kids around, and I know they said they're gonna have all these people and watching over things, but things can happen. And, where you have the towers, you're still providing warmth, as they said in their letter, I believe. And so I guess that's what's the point, of needing a fire pit as opposed to using towers that could be set away from some of the activities going on.
No, either way with propane, you're gonna have safety problems. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to, somebody's gonna have a pretty good sized tank there.
The towers are fueled by propane.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
I don't, I'm not an insurance person, maybe Mr. Brooks has a comment, he might be familiar with this, but.
He wants to stay out of it.
But it's just as easy to tip over one of the heating towers as it is, I think it would be more difficult to tip over a raised fire pit. But anyhow, I'm gonna vote for the motion. So. But I'm sorry, Joanne, I do agree with Randy, it's certainly worth checking with the insurance folks
I can do that.
to see if that
That's
makes a
okay.
difference.
Yeah.
So, now I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah, me too.
So if this amendment were to be passed, should it have, upon the approval of our agent?
I would
I think
prefer
so, yeah.
that way
Okay.
we're covered.
So we need an amendment to the amendment.
Hey, Doug, you wanna make that amendment?
No, go ahead.
I'll make the amendment.
Okay.
You took off that closed part language too, right?
Yes, he did already, with addition of,
Or Melissa, you want to second it?
Sure, put my name on that.
okay. Addition of insurance review, okay. So the first step is, do we approve the amendment to the amendment? Is there any
Yes.
discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye. Okay, now we're back to, are we going to do Mike's amendment that says amend to conditional use of an alternative fuel source other than wood, with the addition, with the permission of our insurance person reviewing it in advance?
Yes.
Yep.
Any discussion on that?
I would just say if they're gonna get propane, they're gonna have to have a certified installer to put that in, because there's a lot of things to check. Somebody, I don't know how they
That would
tax
be-
it.
That might be true, buddy, but they would need that also for the heating towers, because they're
Yeah,
fueled in the
absolutely,
same
if it's
manner.
propane
that
tank, yeah.
So I think with the equipment, I think that warranty or safety factor comes with the equipment when you buy, or rent it or use it. I don't know that you're gonna have to have a fireman there.
Well, any
or-
propane systems I've seen installed commercially or an individual or farm or whatever have to be put in by installed certified technicians. So he
Yeah, I
does
think
have
we're talking portable,
Well,
not.
Yeah,
not
this
in
is-
there.
This is,
We're still-
this is
we're
not
still gonna have a
something
tank, I have
we
to say,
need to
someplace.
deal with.
Yeah, and usually that's built into the device.
Oh,
It's,
yeah?
it's like a
So you
giant
got
charcoal
a
grill.
barbecue tank there is what you're saying.
It's
Yes,
underneath.
yes.
Okay.
So, okay, so, do we have any other discussion on the amendment?
Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, now we get to the main motion. Are we gonna allow this or not?
Yeah.
With the conditional approval? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So moved. So check with Hartman and see, but, and then once you get that done, then you can notify him what he needs to do. But that the fire pit is out.
Okay. Next item is this thank you letter that was mentioned earlier to the police department, specifically Officer Holt and our administrative assistant Karen that's in the office there, assisted this person with their keys locked in their vehicle. Again, a nice, very nice thank you letter, and thank you to the department. So. Next item, Bellefonte Historic Street tablet request for the Big Spring. I did see this request, you know, we're looking at a project there. I think that this should go to the authority at some point, but I don't expect any quick action because they are planning some construction in that area, you know, in the near future.
So I think what we should do is just refer this to the water authority. They can take it up at their meeting. And because it is in the historic district, once, and if the authority approves it, then it needs to go back hard for final approval.
Next item, DBI revised plans for small business Saturday. They would like to relocate their table and I can't remember exact detail.
Band.
The band for small business Saturday from the courthouse area over to what we call near the Brownstone building, a Rodney Beard attorney's office. In that area where there's a electric meter that they can tie into.
So we need a motion to move the band and DBI's table for Small Business Saturday to the space in the driveway next to the Y outside of the Brownstone building from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on November 27th. And this includes setup and tear down time.
I'll make the motion. I
I'll
can't
second
wait.
it.
John, Johnson and Prendergast. Discussion?
With them moving this, and I know we've had issues, at least two in the past with alcohol, and I didn't see anything listed on there that anything was being provided, but we missed it before when it wasn't on there, and I just want to make sure there's some kind of a reminder.
No alcohol.
We'll put that in any approval letter.
Is it private property owned by Mr. Beard?
Well, some of it's, I think, in the public right of way.
Okay.
It's a BYO.
It's actually in the driveway,
Yeah.
between the Y and the brownstone. I had the same question.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, if that's where they're at, 'cause I don't know if they're getting in the corner where there's no more parking, where there used to be parking.
Yeah, yeah.
Not sure exactly where
Yeah.
they're talking about.
Okay, it's a good note to have in there. I agree.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, so moved.
Next item, Downtown Bellefonte Inc., also, along with the Bellefonte Art Museum and the Bellefonte Garden Club, requesting to add what's called art planters and lighting in the downtown area. These are the portable planters that would be able to be the basis for the stringed lights that you see in Talleyrand Park. They're looking for gaining approval to place these. There's probably some additional discussion needed.
I'd like to request that we do this at a work session and have them come in.
So-
I've seen the pictures, I wasn't that impressed with what I saw. I think we're gonna get the streets looking too busy, but I wanna hear it from them, what their plans are. You know, last time when we talked about the ice rink, we spent 30 minutes on that thing, and I don't think it was fair to council or the residents.
Yeah.
And I think a work session would be.
Yeah, I was thinking of sending this to streets initially, because I think there are two concerns. One is that PennDOT, and there might be some safety concerns, and I think the people who are on the streets committee could look at this and see if it might be an issue, and maybe request PennDOT review, because personally, I think PennDOT would be very concerned about additional lighting going through the town. And-
Well, we could use any additional lighting we could get. We could get down there, according to our citizens.
Yeah, so,
I don't know, I think we should put them up and let them tell us to take them down.
Yeah, I like the idea. Let's
I do
give it a
too.
shot.
It's not only
Go
that,
for it. If it doesn't work,
if
take
we
it
could
down.
yarn
A little more
bomb, why
detail
can't
on
we
it.
put painted
I thought
planters in
the,
the street?
I thought
so
the
it,
proposal was kind of short on detail.
yeah, so if you want to move it forward, there needs to be a motion, otherwise we can just refer it to a committee. Or because of the budgets stuff, I think it'd be better if we put it into the committee at this point.
I agree.
I'll make a motion to send it to the committee. If we need a motion, send it to the committee.
Seconded if we need it.
All in favor?
If we need it.
All in favor, aye.
Okay, that's where it's going.
Okay.
I live in memory of the banners that were going to be put on the light posts, that we found out there wasn't enough room on the light
Yeah.
posts for the banners, and I was thinking the flower pots might fall in the same category.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Moving on?
In Office of Community Affairs, I don't have any more written
I don't either.
communications. So we go into Office of Community Affairs, I know we have Gina here with us, if there would be a question, but just as noted, there was, the Planning Commission minutes are here, that's from November 8th. There wasn't any HARB meeting, and there was no administrative approvals granted. Mr. Brooks is here also, and his report is here as well in the packet. I believe that's everything,
Yeah.
unless there's a question.
Does anyone have any questions for either one? Okay, good. Then we can move on.
All right, we're in the reports.
Overwhelming detail once again.
Tom?
Thank you. We'll start off with the proclamation. This proclamation is for the Borough of Bellefonte, Center County, Pennsylvania, proclaiming November 27th, 2021 as Small Business Saturday. Whereas the Borough of Bellefonte recognized the importance of small businesses as glue that holds the community together, nationwide small businesses created more than 2/3 of the net new jobs over the past 2 decades. And whereas the advocacy groups and public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. And whereas one of Bellefonte's greatest assets is its unique array of locally owned and operated independent businesses which are part of the fabric of the community. And whereas the local business owners and operators invest in Bellefonte and contribute to the local economy, offer quality jobs for residents, engage in civic concerns, support local initiatives, and are essential to our success as a community. And whereas support of these businesses is critical in maintaining a socially, environmentally, and financially sustainable and vibrant community. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Thomas Wilson, Mayor of Borough of Bellefonte, do hereby proclaim November 27th, 2021 as Small Business Saturday in Bellefonte and encourage all to support local businesses by buying locally on November 27th and throughout the year. There you go.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. And the police report was in your packet along with the parking animal control reports. If you have any questions about either of those reports, please ask them.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Or a comment.
Yeah, Doug and I talked about this, and I think it's a good idea.
Well, go ahead, you present.
I just want to say that we've talked about it, and I endorse your request. Go ahead. Let's do it together.
Okay.
One,
It's a duo.
We've asked our code, nuisance code enforcement officer for some finer details, and I think Mr. Eaton brought up one about publishing more on the Facebook, whatever. I see, Sean, or Chief Weaver, that total parking tickets issued were 94. And on, you know, you have that tally on each month, I guess. Total 149. Could we see how many of those 149 get resolved? Either they're paid or they're not paid, or they're taken to the district judge for a resolution?
Is that on the parking one?
Yeah.
Yeah, parking tickets, it says, total
I'll ask
parking.
them to put that on there.
Hmm?
I can ask them to put that on there.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know. I see there's 149 issued, but we never know how many get resolved. Either
exonerated or paid, not paid, or lost in the wind.
So, I don't know if council has to endorse that or whatever, but I think it would be.
I'll bring your request to that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, that's all I have, Madam President.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the mayor? Seeing none, my report is on a weekly basis, I attend White House briefings that they're designed specifically for elected local municipal leaders. And so I put a memo in from the one last week. The big takeaway from this meeting, it was on the infrastructure bill that was signed into law today, is that the White House would like to hear from local communities with detailed ideas on how they might use the funds from the infrastructure bill. They gave us an email address that I put in the memo to use when we need to send in our ideas. They will then forward these ideas to the appropriate department for review and response. This is in addition to what we normally do by talking to the state and county governments once the funds have been allocated. And note also, this morning I heard that Pennsylvania overall will be receiving approximately $83 billion of the $1.3 trillion available from the bipartisan infrastructure bill. They will be distributing that around the state. There's also some grants that are competitive that are in addition to that $83 billion. The other thing is I'm attending the PML Sustainability Conference tomorrow morning. That's my report. Any questions? Seeing none? Buddy, you want to do the building and property?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick update here. We had a Zoom meeting last Monday with Enterprise car rental, or car leasing and so forth. Anyway, the conversation, and it was presented to the other members, that they are coming to us with a proposal to more or less eliminate our own ownership of our vehicles and lease them through them, and a turnover every couple of years of equipment. The members listened to what they had said. I was gonna ask, did all council get this information from Enterprise?
No,
No,
not
it's
I
yet.
think
Just
maybe it'd be a
us.
good thing if you guys could take a look at this. It's make it a lot simpler than me trying to explain it, but over a period of 10 years, we would basically replace all our pieces of equipment with their equipment, and they'd be replaced, basically, they're saying a new pickup, if you bought it this year, 2 years from now, the price we paid, maybe we paid $26,000 for it. They're saying 2 years from now, it would be worth $33,000 if we bought it off the lot, put it that way. So they're saying they're gonna pick an optimum time, based on our usage, that we sell that piece of equipment and take the savings from 26 if they sell for 32 or whatever, and either put that back in the program or use that money for someplace else. They also came to us with a proposal for maintenance of that equipment, and basically it goes to say year 5, we'd be spending $200-some thousand on leased equipment, which to me, and I talked to Ralph a little bit, I'm the type of guy who buys a piece of equipment and run it to death and then we'll get rid of it. Could be here 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but a lot of our equipment is not that old, but it has very low mileage because we only have 2 square miles. So.
So it's primarily police vehicles? or
Pardon?
No, it's all
just
vehicles.
It's all of
It's
them.
all vehicles,
Okay.
yeah. So that's like I said, it'd be a dump truck or whatever. Now, I did talk to one fellow from Gettysburg where they have the program now, but unfortunately, he called while we were having the meeting, so I didn't get to talk to him in detail. But the way we left the meeting, we were gonna contact a couple of the entities that already have this program and see how it's working out.
Yeah,
Whether they
good
think
idea.
it's good or bad or whatever, so. And I don't think we contacted anybody yet. Anyway, the one guy I talked to from Gettysburg, they did their own maintenance, they didn't turn their maintenance over to them. And like I said, I didn't get back to him yet to talk to him to get some more detail, but the couple of years that they've had it, it seemed like it was okay so far, so. But, money-wise, I'm not sure. At the end of the lease, we either have to buy the equipment or we don't have a piece of equipment, do we have to give it back to them or whatever, so. There's a lot of details I think we need to really look at yet, so. That's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I think they were flexible enough that we, what program they showed us, we can be flexible with that program on how we turn over vehicles or pick up other vehicles. So can spread that out more than maybe what's showing there now.
Yeah.
So it's not such a shock.
It's a commitment, and apparently there's 3 different options to take, and we could get out of it if we didn't like it, it's my understanding, so.
Yeah, that was one of the questions we asked was, if we get into it and we find this isn't working for us, he said, there's no commitment. You can stop it at any time, and if you do, then you would either make a decision to continue with the leased vehicles until that lease is up, or you could purchase them, or you can give them back to us and you can go out and purchase your own. So there's no forever type of commitment.
Right.
I think it would be helpful to know what some of the dollar numbers are.
Well, they're telling us in 10 years we'd save $360,000, but that's on paper.
Right.
We did the
right.
same thing I told Ralph years ago when we did an energy upgrade in the borough here, energy upgrade with Johnson Controls and all the buildings. They told us we'd save enough money to pay for our upgrade, which we spent $1.5 million or something like that, changeover. But all we got was a piece of paper that said you saved $53,000 by not making payments or doing any maintenance on it. So it was all on paper and we didn't get anything.
Right, it's all
And
hypothetical.
our electricity bill went up actually. So that one didn't work out too good. But anyway, we need to get more information to look at this.
So I'd suggest that the sheet you're looking at, the spreadsheet that they made, that could be sent out to all council, so
Yeah.
you're at least seeing what
That's what I
most
said.
of the
Yeah.
discussion
Let them
was
look at
about.
this information here, so.
All right, we'll do that.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Deb, finance and government performance?
Okay, prior to tonight's council meeting, we had a work session to work on primarily the general fund of the 2022 budget, and that will be ongoing. There is a special work session, I believe Thursday, the 18th, to continue. Is that 4 to 5?
I think we figured 2 hours maximum, but if see how fast we can be.
Okay.
I thought there was a
But yeah.
LERTA program.
Alert is
That's-
also
That's-
included,
Mhm.
but the general fund's obviously the higher priority.
Right.
Because all I saw was something scheduled for an hour, so if it's more than that, then I'll change my schedule, so. we're
I
saying
think
4 to
we
6.
figured, the priority is the general fund. And we just guessed at maybe maximum 2 hours, but
Right.
that's just a guess.
Is that in person or Zoom?
It could be either or. I think we were thinking in person, but if you want to attend by Zoom, we can create a link and do
I
it
think
that
it's,
way.
All right,
I thought it was
please.
4 to 6.
Okay, that's,
And in your packet is some correspondence regarding the Nittany Valley Recreation Authority request for funding for Kepler Pool that just clarifies the agreement, so that issue is resolved. And that's all I have for my report.
Any questions for Deb? Okay, seeing none. Melissa, Parks and Rec?
We did not meet and I do not have a report.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, moving on to Human Resources. John?
Okay, union contract is still being finalized. We're in the process of scheduling a compatible meeting time, hopefully later this week. And then the next item is the borough manager and chief of police evaluations are due.
You're done.
Well, not everybody. We're close to having all of them.
What negligent souls need an extension,
I'm not going to
Joanne?
publicly announce that.
Do we have more than a few?
We has, as the time this meeting started, they said we have 10 of the 12 we need. So we're close. So if you
Okay,
can get them to me in the next couple of days, I'd appreciate it.
okay, you're being lenient.
You gave us a month.
I
Yeah,
know.
I think he's gonna strap us to a pole and whip us.
No, I was just gonna look at you with a simply disappointed look and scoff. Okay, that's it, I'm done.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none? Randy?
We have a work safety committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, November 17th at 7:30 a.m. Looking forward to that one.
Glad it's you and not me.
Now, I think actually I think the meeting attendance has improved as far as representation in changing that time from noon, which was an interruption of everybody's day at that point, so
that's what we did.
I think it works so far.
Okay. Any questions? We're moving right along. Doug, water refuse collection and compost?
Okay, the daily water withdrawals in your packet, it looks a little higher than usual to
It was a
me.
big leak.
Hmm?
It was leaking for 2
Yeah,
days.
yeah. And that could be the reason.
Yeah.
The authority minutes are in your packet. I was there for most of the meeting, but I had another commitment, so I had to scoot out early. But we did have a presentation by Scott Russell, Vice President of Buckhart Horn, on the big spring cover replacement, and Ben Mikesell was present with him. They did a formal presentation of some ideas about the big spring cover. I think isn't it recorded?
Yes, it's recorded and it's on our website.
Yeah, so if you would like to take a look at that, it's on the borough's website. And we are receiving comments from the public through the month of November. Just wanted to let you all know that it's there. Musser Lane Compost Facility. The gate opening will be dependent on the weather conditions, and we'll let you know when and if that changes, as soon as we know. You can also get approval through the borough office to get access to it. It's like getting the key. Is that
Yes,
accurate?
yes.
And the last day for brush pickup is this Wednesday.
So after Wednesday, you'll be responsible for getting your own brush and brush and
Grass.
brush cuttings down to Musser Lane on your own. I think that completes my report.
Just to clarify, leaves, Ralph, didn't you say something about leaves?
These are being picked up at the curb still.
At the curb until the snow?
Yes.
Until the snow, we can't do it anymore.
I have a question on that.
Go, Mike.
My neighbor has had a large pile of leaves sitting there for about 2 weeks, and they haven't come by and pick it up. Is there a schedule or anything?
Yeah.
They try to stick close to the day of refuse pickup, but if they're coming by, is it on Spring Street?
Yeah.
I'll check with them. Yeah, now, if there's a car in the way or something, they wouldn't be able to get to it.
Well, that may be the problem, because there's always cars parked there.
That
Well,
could
we'll
be the
put a no
problem.
parking sign up there.
Yeah, we may have to do that to get close to the piles.
All my neighbors will love me.
Well, it'll only be a short, once they know where it is and they
Yeah.
can get there, they'll come out right away.
Yeah, it's right under that big tree.
Okay, we'll do some figuring, see if we can get it.
Those guys are pretty darn good. When they get a request, they get to it.
I have one question.
Okay.
In the authority minutes, and the sentence says, Mr. Stewart has contacted the commissioners about a meeting,
Okay.
and he's not heard back yet. Margaret Gray indicated that the money will most likely be put into the old Center Crest building. Can you further clarify for that for us and the public?
Sure, the county received approximately $31 million of federal aid, and the authority wanted to have a meeting to see if we could get some of those funds for water, primarily water projects, infrastructure projects. Informally, we're hearing that the county may be putting those funds in the old Center Crest building and not distributing them out as grants. But we that was the idea of the meeting, kind of share our laundry list of projects and then see when the application is, what they would be looking for and so on. We're still, hopefully that maybe something will change and there'll be some funds available.
We did make the effort to get that.
Okay.
But
Doug, I have a question about the big spring cover. I did look at the YouTube video.
Good.
That, and it looks very nice. Doesn't give me any idea about the size of it. Is it the same diameter as the existing?
The diameter of the cover?
The diameter of that
Pretty
structure.
much the spring will all be covered, it'll maybe go a couple feet on each side.
The size of
Well,
the circle, is it the same?
No.
as
It'll be a little bit bigger.
It'll be twice the size. The actual cover is over the existing spring, and then the other new half of the circle, it'll be on land. And, so
So
be
you're
twice.
actually expanding the
Yes,
size
it'll
of
be
that
twice the
pool.
size.
Okay.
Now, with all that said, nothing is set in stone,
Oh,
they're just ideas.
I was just trying to get an
Yes.
idea of the size of this installation
Yeah,
compared to what's
the
there.
waterfall part is really the new cover, and then where that water lands is an expanded cover, half circle, that would now cover land that has nothing on it except for grass.
Okay, that helps, thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks, Rob.
Mhm.
Anything else? Okay, Mary, streets.
Streets Committee met on November 4th. That was earlier the same day as the first of the two meetings here about the safety, what's the word I'm looking for? Safety measures being taken or being proposed at the Diamond. And so we mostly spent that meeting preparing for the two community meetings. I think they were overall they were well attended, especially the Thursday night one. I think we got lots of great feedback. We are still taking feedback through the end of the month. The posters are still up in here if you want to come see them in person during the business day. And they're also on the website. there's a form on the website. If you have comments, you can fill out the form and return it, or you can send an email. We are still looking for community input on this, this project, and nothing will be decided until the new year. So we're looking at things. And one of the things that we did here was repeatedly was people not liking the reflective posts that have been put up in that area. And so one thing that we were able to do immediately was to take down 3 out of every 4 of the posts. You will see that, you know, the people who spoke out about that, there has already been some movement in that direction.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none. Energy environment, Mike?
All right, we have, Bellefonte State College has received a no-match grant of $12,000. I believe that's for trees.
Yeah, it's a joint grant with State College as part of the ICLEI Buddy City program. Bellefonte is looking at trees for the residential area and shrubs for the peninsula at Talleyrand Park. State College is looking for trees in their parks. We had originally requested $20,000. The grant was reduced to $12,500. We haven't actually received the official award letter because of this reduced grant amount.
Right.
So we met last week with the State College people and their arborist, and we're resubmitting the grant with the new numbers. And as soon as that goes to them, which should be by the end of the week, we'll be able to get the official award letter. And the plan is to put in these trees and shrubs the end of March, beginning of April. We have 1 year to complete the
Okay,
project.
so that won't be ready for our Wednesday meeting.
The letter probably won't be here by then.
All right, next one, Don received a memo from the Fish and Game, or the Fish and Boat Commission. They want to put some trees along the waterfront, and they've got grant funds available, and I personally think it's a great idea, but
So
we should talk about it.
at the meeting on Wednesday?
That would be it.
Okay.
And Sustainable Communities collaboration with PSU, we're going to be discussing upcoming projects, one of which is they're talking about a newsletter, and I don't think we need to do anything about it tonight, but we should talk about that at the meeting also.
Okay.
That's my report.
Any questions? Seeing none, move to special committee reports. Ada?
The Bellefonte Area Industrial Development Authority met last Wednesday. They primarily were just looking at one of the things that they're doing is looking at deteriorated properties in the borough, and with the idea of purchasing one. And there was one house that the committee or the authority went and looked at, but came back, had the meeting, they discussed it a little bit, but at this point it's under further review. We're going to probably have someone who's kind of a
structural engineer,
structural engineer or contractor go in and look at it on their behalf and give them some more input. So that was pretty much the extent of the meeting.
Any questions? Seeing none,
I have one.
go ahead.
We have a Nittany Valley Joint Planning Commission meeting Thursday. Starts at 6 p.m. It's in Marion Township. So that other meeting that's going on from 4 to 6, I may, depending where we are with discussion, may jump out a little early.
That, Joanne, that made me think of something with the IDA report.
Uh-huh.
Didn't we give them 200,000?
Yes,
Is it in the bank somewhere, Don?
yes.
Is that some, I don't wanna take the money away from them, but
You
Is
can
that
take
your
the money,
money?
I mean, it actually, I think the agreement with the IDA is you gave them
3 years?
2 years?
2 to 3 years, I can't recall without looking, Doug, but there was a period that you gave them, and if they didn't do anything, it can come back and be applied to the loan that we have on the waterfront.
If you take it, the only problem is we don't have any money to work with.
Yeah, I know that, but maybe, we could take 100,000 and give you.
The house we looked at the other day, you need $350,000 to remodel.
Okay, it was just a thought I had.
We're very limited in what we can look at and what we can
Yeah.
purchase and how much we can put into it, so.
Okay, all right, just a thought.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Dawn.
Okay. Your report.
Sure, my October report is in the packet for your review. And if you just let me know if you have any questions, or I'm happy to answer some now if you have any.
I have one.
Okay.
In the report, after your report, you put in some reports from water and sewage from that. And under the water sewage authority, you stated that there was a statement that the Spring Banner Walker Joint Authority were doing terminations. Can you explain what that's about? Because when I read it, I thought that the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, was being terminated, and that scared the bejeebers out of me.
Do you want to explain that? We
didn't
shut off
understand-
water for
I
Spring
didn't
Banner
understand the
Walker
question.
bills.
What was the question again?
What is termination?
There was a statement from the supervisor at the sewage treatment plant about terminations with the Spring Banner Walker Joint Authority. I didn't understand what that meant. I initially thought that it meant that the memorandum of understanding was being terminated, but that's not.
I don't think
and
I was
understand.
there at that time.
I can answer on behalf of the authority. We have an agreement with Spring Banner Walker that says if they, being a sewer authority, has a customer that's behind in their bills, we shut off the water if they're our water customer. It helps them. They have no way of collecting that back debt or that back bill unless we terminate the water service. So they have to go through us. We've agreed to do that a few years ago, probably 5 or 7 years ago. We put that on hold during COVID. We just a month or two ago went back to it, and that's what the abbreviation means, and it's actually probably Matt Allman's Public Works report that water terminations, Spring Banner Walker, something to that effect. That's what that means.
So that clarification really helps.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something? This is a good time, I think.
Sure.
I want to remind the public that about 8 months ago, the borough received $50,000 for anybody that is having trouble paying water bill, sewer bill, or a utility bill. If you are having trouble, Contact Center helps. They've only exhausted about $800 of the $50,000, so there's still money there available for people that somehow through COVID aren't able to cover these types of expenses. And if you find yourself behind, Contact Center helps. Tell them that you are looking for the Bellefonte, if you're a Bellefonte Borough resident, that you're looking for the Bellefonte Borough CDBG funds that are there to help cover utility costs, and they may be able to help you out, especially if you got a letter of termination notice. That's an automatic indicator that you can be eligible for some of those funds.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
I'm good if everybody's
you
good.
got the second one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I think we heard our council president mention about, oh, no, I was gonna say the evaluation, that's already been addressed. We did receive some harassment training that was in accordance with our new policies that were adopted earlier this year. We did some training on Friday, this past Friday, and we intend to do more and have it recorded and available for future trainings, new supervisors and so on. So I think it was valuable, and we would encourage, if you were welcome to attend, or set in on it, you're more than welcome to.
And FYI, the person who did this training is the lawyer, so there was some additional cost there as well. Just going back to our earlier
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
Any other things, Ralph?
That's all I have under my report.
Any questions for Ralph?
I just have one, when it comes to the lawyers, and I know many times when we are gonna go for, something for the lawyer to look at and come back to, it's approved by council. But then there seems to be other times that it's not approved. And I'm just wondering, where's that fine line that separates that, where it's either done through administrative or it's approved by council, I think is.
I think it's a question for the majority of council to determine, what the policy is going to be. We're trying to, either manage a committee, manage council, manage, something. But I would ask council to maybe collectively decide what the policy, what your majority want to do with legal expenses and how much time you want the attorney to be involved in things.
I just wanted to say, Randy, when I was on council back then, I don't know what the policy is today, but each council member back then was allowed 2 hours a year to discuss something with our borough solicitor only. And then anything other than that, it had to go through council to be approved or whatever, so I don't know what the policy is today. That's what it was then.
It's really for council to.
Because most of the time now, it's either going through a committee of some type, or it comes to council and we approve to go to legal to get the information. But I think sometimes it gets on committee, it gets lost, that process gets lost. And I think whatever it is, it's our responsibility to maintain and watch over the budget, and I'm thinking that it should be a council approval.
Yes. I know here in a couple months, we're gonna be reorganizing, going through, setting up things. That'd be an excellent time to take a look at what council wants to do with that.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to old business.
You want me to go down through things?
Yep.
First one, Bellefonte Borough plan amendments to increase municipal contribution rate and ordinance. This ordinance has been advertised, it's ready for action.
Then you have a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-1115-01.
I will make that motion. Eaton?
Eaton,
I'll second it.
Clayton. Discussion?
Okay, just for clarification, what is this?
This was the ordinance that will allow us to increase the borough's contribution for employees from 5% to 10% for their
Okay.
retirement.
For the employees in the cash balance plan,
Right.
bringing them up to equivalence with the employees in the
Defined benefit.
rough equivalence with the defined benefit plan and slightly less than the police employees.
Not a problem.
So,
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Do have one question in there. It said that we could sign all three for all 3 years going forward, or we could just do one at a time. Do we have a preference?
I think our preference is all 3
all
years.
three,
That's the
yeah,
life
so
of the
we don't
contract.
forget.
Well, there's also the life of the union.
The union
contract.
agreement, right.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next item, I believe we've addressed the food truck regulations being sent to a committee to review.
Okay.
We're good for there. Alert ordinance, we mentioned that, that's on deck for Thursday night as a second, it's not the highest priority, but if we have time, we can take a look at it. Spring Creek Watershed Commission letter response.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
Do we not need to have a motion to send
Yes.
this ordinance to the solicitor for review?
Unless council wants to look at it and discuss it before it goes. Now, that's why we brought it back, because, 2 weeks ago at the previous meeting, council approved it getting reviewed by finance and then going to the solicitor. We decided to put it back for you to take one more look at it
Okay,
You know, but if you're feel that it's good to go to the solicitor with, you know, we try to lessen the solicitor time as, you know, we were hearing tonight.
Can we send it after the meeting can we make a motion to send it after Thursday so it
Yes.
doesn't get held up?
Yes, we could do that, sure.
I'll make that motion.
Motion
I'll second it.
send after Thursday meeting. So that's Pomboski and Prendergast. Any discussion?
so we'll review it in committee. If we're good with it in committee, we'll send it off to the solicitor, then come back to council for approval.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
Or
the one thing I
modification.
would like, I mean, just because this is in my head at this point, is that I'd like to see some language added for deteriorated residential and uninhabited properties added to eligible properties when we get to that point. I don't have the language, I don't think any of us do, but I think the solicitor could probably give us some good ideas of additional language for that. So it's just an idea to add to, when we're asking him to look at that.
Okay.
It may work, it may not, I don't know.
Correct. All right, we'll do that. We'll put it on the agenda as mentioned for Thursday.
We need to have a vote on the motion. Any other comments or discussion at this point? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved.
Spring Creek Watershed Commission letter response received. This was the response from the authority's letter. As I noted, the authority won't see that till their December 7th meeting, recommending wait till we see what the authority has as a response.
Thanks for getting that letter out to us.
No problem, thanks.
And so that means that we would be taking action at the December 20th meeting.
Okay, yes, probably.
What time
Next
is
item.
that meeting?
What time is the authority meeting?
6 PM
6 p.m.
here in the council chamber.
I know the time.
Diamond Safety Improvements, public comment, input meetings, as you know, they were last week, the 4th and the 6th. Just a reminder, all that information's on our website. It's also available on CNET's website. Citizens can complete a survey, a comment form, and send in an email or a letter to the borough. We did, as Mary mentioned, we did remove some of the plastic delineators as it was a visibility safety issue brought up by a number of commenters. So we did take that step to remove some of those. But at this point, we'll wait till those comments come in. We'll compile everything. Most likely, because of the time and the budget issues, budget being priority, we're probably looking at sometime in January to really delve into the comments and decide, what seems to be rising to the top as far as suggestions.
Any questions? Okay.
Next item, as mentioned a couple of times, special work session this Thursday, 4 p.m. We're going to go ahead and advertise that, and plan on here. We need a majority in the room. We can do some Zoom. I know Melissa said she would like Zoom. If there's others, let us know.
Okay, so
Or send you the
we
link.
need a motion to advertise at this
Yes.
point.
I'll make that motion,
I'll
Brackville.
second it, Prendergast.
Brackville and Pendergast. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved.
Thank you. That's all I have under old business. New business?
Yep.
The draft social media policy that would go into our personnel employee handbook is in the packet for your approval. We're just looking at approving the policy to be put in the personnel manual.
Do I have a motion to adopt this internal policy?
I'll make that motion.
Clayton,
I'll second it. Eaton?
Eaton. Discussion?
Of one point, I guess, or a couple maybe. Does this include Bellefonte Fire Department, Bellefonte Police Department?
I think we want to,
Associated with, where do these groups stand in terms of being under the umbrella of Bellefonte? Where the chiefs or the police department should fall under this.
Yeah.
even though they do their own Facebooks, but they should still follow the same guidelines.
Yes.
So does the fire department also need to do that?
No,
Because they're volunteers.
they're their own entity
Well, you're
though.
kind of letting them outside the
They
umbrella.
have their own set of guidelines, Randy. You know
Yeah.
that better than
No, I
anybody.
don't know that.
No, they're volunteers. I'd say the cutoff is, at least in our personnel manual, employees. You know, so like we don't
They're
run, we don't
volunteers.
run the Logan Fire Company.
I
or the
understand
Young
that,
Guns.
but
Yeah.
that
They
speaks of
already have a
volunteers.
social media policy.
I know, but I just want to make sure that, you know, that if they needed to be part of this one.
I don't think we could mandate it. We could say it, but I don't think we could mandate it.
All right. So they're not considered anything to Bellefonte at this point then?
They're
Employees.
volunteers to Bellefonte. You know,
But
they're-
volunteers are mentioned in this.
Volunteers
Your
to the
volunteer
borough.
groups are mentioned
I
in
don't
this.
think we said volunteer fire company
It
employees.
just says volunteers, Ralph.
We could clarify it, Randy, you know, but again, we could go back and take a look at it.
I took that, I know Melissa took a lead on this, but when she said volunteers, I took that as, like the volunteer ABCs, authorities, boards and commissions.
Yeah.
That was my interpretation, but I can see where you can see what you're seeing, Randy.
Yeah.
Maybe we just need to clarify that.
Should
Either-
we
either
table it for
put something
clarification?
in there to indicate that the fire department works on their own.
Should,
Well, the other thing I did want to do is, and I mentioned this, but I didn't get a chance to, but I would have done it over the next 2 weeks, is I did want to include it to make sure that staff is also included in that, to make that more clear.
So
So-
Randy, you would like the fire department purposefully outlined as not in this, or would you want them in this?
I agree that they do have their own policies and they do work alone, but they are still part of the Bellefonte Borough. I mean, that's the Bellefonte Fire Department. It's not made up of it's made up of the Logans and Undines, but they're the Bellefonte Fire Department. So we do have some responsibility to them. So we just need to make it clear. I know they just did their policies, and I think they're happy with them. But I just want to make sure that if there's additional protection out there,
I'm
they get
happy
it.
to include them.
so are we asking for a motion to table so we can get this, this language clarified?
I'll make that motion for
Okay.
the table.
I'll second it.
Table Randy and Mike.
But this was to win our employee handbook.
Yes,
Correct.
Yes.
it wasn't, that's all we need to do with it.
Right,
So-
Which wouldn't include the fire department.
right, so whatever Randy would like to do with it, that'll have to go
This-
into,
Just clarify the
Correct.
volunteer part.
So,
yeah.
this is a motion to table, there is no discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, so moved. We'll bring this back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Any other new business?
I have none.
Okay. Any public comments on non-agenda items? Please come up, give your name.
Deborah Berger. I live at 657 Humes Road here in the borough, and I am the borough tax collector. So it's just one quick question, not only for myself, but for taxpayers that are asking. How much money has been spent on the Diamond project so far between the engineers, the delineators, the loss of parking revenue, the workers to put the delineators up? How much ballpark has been spent?
I would say 60,
I
if it
was
was a
thinking
ballpark.
60 myself. I'm gonna say 30,000 in materials. Now, this is a ballpark, yes. I don't have it, calculated like you're asking. The 30,000 in materials, the plastic curbing, the delineators, and about 30,000 in engineering, is my guess.
And
So-
parking.
And parking. Our labor is not in that number.
Mhm.
Those types of things, loss of those meter revenues not in that number.
Okay, is this all coming from tax dollars,
No.
or are there grant?
Well, there's state tax dollars and gas tax money I'll try to quickly explain. We get what's called, as a borough, and other municipalities get this, you've maybe heard the term liquid fuels or
Yes.
highway aid. That's gas taxes that are built into every gallon of gas people buy. The taxes are collected, sent to the state. They turn around and grant them out for like liquid fuels, highway aid funding for municipalities to do street or highway related projects. That funding is what's paying for this work. So it's state money collected, sent to us, and we're permitted to use it for this type of work.
Okay, and because I watch all the council meetings, there has been problems and questions come up with the whole Phoenix Avenue area.
Yes.
So had this money not been spent here, that money could then have gone down to that area?
No, Phoenix Avenue, we are working in the county. The county gets an allotment of funding from the state and federal government for transportation-related projects. It's called the Center County Metropolitan Planning Organization. They're the overseers of spending the state and federal funds matched locally when there's a project in your municipality. We have Phoenix Avenue and Water Street on the burner. We have to get it ranked higher and moved up to get funded through the county. We just got it kind of on the list as a potential project, but it has to keep getting vetted and then funded, and then eventually something will be built or reconstructed. But that's beyond Bellefonte Borough's control. You know, we can put in, request it, but we don't, you know, we can't make it happen on our own. So doing this did not affect that project.
Okay, is there a ballpark figure? I'm only asking these questions because I know I'm gonna get them in the spring when the tax bills go out. Is there a ballpark figure as to how much more is gonna be spent at the Diamond?
I don't think anybody knows that until we vet all the information that's come in. If we're talking, you know, I'll just say the quick and easy answer is do nothing or do a construction project. If it is a construction project, you know, we've got to get it permitted and we got to get it funded. You know, depending on the cost of those numbers, you know, it could be probably significant or, you know, a fair amount of money, because that's what projects, it could be $500,000 to $1 million or more in that, if it's a significant project.
So the liquid fuels is not a, you know, there's an end to the amount of money that we would get from that, correct?
Yes, yeah, we can't, we can only, I mean, we can request funds, it's not a guarantee. The borough gets an allotment, but we would, a big project at the Diamond, if that's the way it turns out, you know, we've got to find the funding. It may be more than what we get in. We'd have to go maybe to the state or PennDOT and say what grants are available with, you know, with or without local matches and so on. It might be, you know, 4 or 5 years from now, by the time we get everything lined up, at state funding to do a project at the Diamond. If it's a construction project, if it's something simple or a no build, you know, we're not talking much more to finish things, take things out, put stripes back, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. I'll try to answer the questions as best as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one quick question.
Uh-huh.
Traveling out through the borough the past week, I've noticed a lot of yard signs in among the houses and so forth, especially out on Wellbank and Water Street. There's advertising for businesses and stuff that aren't actually there, but they look like the political signs. But I thought the only thing we're allowed before were political signs, but any other advertising signs are not allowed. Is that right?
Well, no, we have a sign ordinance, and like realtor signs can be out. There's a list of these portable signs, you know, that can be out for a period of time. But like realtors come to mind.
Well, I'm just saying, there's a couple business signs that I've seen out there by on Wellbank or Water Street that advertising businesses, they've been there for quite a while, and I just wondered what the ordinance was.
We can take a look at them, buddy.
Okay, just checking.
Sure.
And I have,
You're both at an angle. There you go.
I have a, Melissa, Don, and I have been gotten a couple of emails over the last couple of days from the Talleyrand Park Committee concerning the ice rink. And I'm suggesting that we follow up with the Parks and Rec Committee with that. I think it's pretty much resolved, but I think we need to respond to them and listen, hear what they have to say.
I think they came to a consensus that just to move forward as is, but I'm happy to reach out to them.
Yeah.
And they're having, they're trying to set up a December meeting anyway, so.
So we can meet with them then.
I would think so.
Did Mark have a date yet for installation?
They, all I know is Dave Letterman said it's been ordered, and they said it would take, I forget what they're thinking it's not gonna be here until sometime in December.
Okay. Anything else that wasn't on the agenda? Seeing none, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Brackville and Prendergast, the most popular people this evening. Seeing no opposition, we are adjourned at exactly 9 p.m.
Well, you hit it right on the nose.
Thank you.
All right. That's enough fun for tonight.
The old Thursday.
I have it 4 o'clock. I thought it was only 30 to leave. You always catch COVID when you're. I was drinking my water.
See you later, Buzz.